And we're back for real this time.
And we are back. There we go.
Boom.
Okay. Boom. Welcome to the new version of this video. If you guys like, we will not make this mistake again. So today we're going to talk about first impressions of the LG C2, G2, and Classy has the QN90B in the house. We're going to tell you a little bit of what people think of these new TVs, and they're all good, by the way. So I think you're all going to be very, very pleased with what you see this year. So let me add my little thing here, and boom, let's go up. So I've updated the prices. There's been some adjustments. So today we're talking C2, G2, QN90B. These are, I'd say, the top TVs from the respective brands. Now the QN95B is coming, but it's not arriving until mid-July. Last minute edition, if you guys saw my video, by Samsung. Unexpected, and we hope it comes with a One Connect box. It most likely will, because they're just sending us the European version. And then we're going to also get the S95B at some point and the A95K, but since those are not yet released, these three models are literally the best TVs you're going to get in 2022 right now, right? So we have early comparisons. If you haven't checked out his channel, Whisper Status, our good friend Brian has seen these TVs head to head. Now, they weren't calibrated yet, so they're being calibrated today. Tomorrow, I'm going to bring on Dwayne Davis and Robert Zone. After calibrations, we're going to compare the numbers and so forth. So I'll post up that live stream link after this. They're going to discuss what the calibration findings are in the most accurate movie mode. G2 versus C2 versus A90J, peak brightness, APL, all that stuff. But a quick spoiler, and I know Brian has said this to everybody, what we are finding is without a heatsink, the C2 is so close to the G2, people are wondering whether or when you should get the G2, if at all. So that's something we're going to investigate very closely, all of us. Brian said that he had to put on some really challenging, bright scenes for the G2 to really pop, but it's not about the G2. It's really about how good the C2 is. And then what about the A80K, right? So let's take us up to current pricing updates. So let's say you do want to get any of these TVs. So everything in blue are the new models. Everything in yellow are the last year's models. And as you can see, the C1 is now dropped to $1,800 or actually $1,750, depending where you are, and maybe with a military exchange, even further discounts. But the C2 is at $2,500. Definitely wait till Black Friday if that's what you want. And the G2 is at $3,000. Some websites say $3,100, $3,200, but it's early. It's going to adjust a little bit under $3,000. X95K hasn't been released yet. The QN90B, this is what we're going to talk about today. I know I cannot wait to hear what Classy says about that for sure.
I have that TV too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. What size is yours?
I have an 85-inch.
85-inch. Okay, so you two, let's not have any spoilers yet because I want to hear. Last year, Brandon did not like the QN90B out of the box. Like, you just did not like it. This year, we'll see if anything changes. And at the 85-inch size, you're all going to be wondering, does it have DSE, dirty screen effect? So we're going to have to ask Brandon about that.
Hold on one second. Oh, yeah. And deep breath. Hi, everyone. How you doing? How's everybody doing? How you doing, Classy? How you doing, Cecil?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. How you doing, FOMO?
I'm doing great. Well, I had to catch up for the 5 minutes lost, so now we're caught up.
You're all right. You're right. You're good. We got plenty.
Oh, wait, how did your son do? I know you have some championship games today.
Unfortunately, they lost.
Oh, that's why you're here. That's why you're
here. Yeah, he had a game. They came up against a pretty good team, unfortunately. So that's okay. But no, and then and how's everybody doing how are the viewers doing? Hope everyone's doing well. See some people. What's up, Tech with KG, everyone? Smash the like button if you can real quick. It would really help to get the video out. I'm sure a lot of people want to see this video. So everybody that's here, smash the like button real quick, and it'll just start populating it to some other people that want to be in this chat. So I appreciate that. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just trying to.
No. I sometimes just jump right in, right? So
you're all business.
I'm the less social one. Like, I don't have so much time. Who knows how long these people will be here?
You're social.
Okay, so let's start off with the QN95B. You guys have it, and we'll start. Well, Classy, you've had it. You've calibrated it. I think I don't know if you had enough time to share your early impressions, but what do you got for us, Classy? First impressions of the QN90B.
I actually put up my review today, but it's part one of the review.
Part one of many.
Yeah, because I have over 100 gigs of footage, and I have not calibrated it yet because I wanted the first part to be how most people are going to experience it.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So I'm going to calibrate it today, and then work on that, and have in-depth stuff like that, and then I'm going to have like a dedicated gaming video in comparison to the 90A. Pretty much, it's like I was explaining on another stream this week. If the goalpost is here, the QN90A got to here. It was just barely short to me, and the B pushed it across the line.
Oh wait, so the QN90A was just short, and the B pushed it across. And specifically, where was it short?
In the low end, so crushed shadow details. Not having bright highlights in the dark areas. The small little highlights not being very bright. And then we saw the 900A at the shootout, and it had fixed all that. And that's what the B does. And then the B adds new, better processing. So I think the B outshines the 900A.
Now, Class, can I ask you, because I know you're going to get into calibrated, but if you haven't calibrated yet, this is one thing that I noticed on my Q90R that I did not like at all. So I was watching Netflix The Witcher, and dude, that HDR was the brightness. It could not get the tone mapping on his skin. Like it would be, he or she, the characters would be in this, there's a candle, and it's HDR, Netflix, and the candle would be like this, waving. So the tone mapping goes from perfect skin tones to it's just blown out. Like all the skin tone disappears, and then goes back to perfect. So I could tell that whatever that brightness, the TV was unable to tone map properly, and it was in the same scene. Literally, 1 second it's perfectly tone mapped, the next second it's blown out, clipped highlights. Within 3 seconds it goes back and forth. I go, oh, but this is a Q90R.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the QN90A, 90B fixed that, because we know that Netflix is very Dolby Vision now, and I think Witcher is Dolby Vision. I'm wondering if this could be an issue for the Samsungs if they don't read Dolby Vision. And this was, I don't know. I'm going to try testing it on the QN90A with that scene, but I was like, okay, that's distracting. Normally it's not an issue, but that's something I wanted to bring your attention.
Yeah, I'll try and look more at that. I did record a little bit of The Witcher Season 2 for the footage on this, but different scene. I will say, like on the QN90A, I had it for 3 weeks before this, and it just wasn't enough. Like it did not do enough. It just had too many drawbacks to me. This fixes most of them. Again, specifically, they focused everything down low, and like when I do the brightness measurements, the 90A would peak at a 25% window, and then it would drop, but at 100% window is over 600 nits. This is lower. This is just over 500 nits at 100% window, and it peaks at a 10%. So what they did is they shifted the brightness to 10% and lower. So it's brighter, and it's in its accurate movie mode. It's basically 2000 nits. It was 19 and change or whatever. In its dynamic mode, it hit 3000.
Right, and of course, no one's going to watch that. But
yeah. So they really focused on the 10% windows down. And at 1%, it's 1,000 nits. So that's a big improvement over last year.
And also for those who have the Q90A, it did improve throughout the year as well. It slowly got brighter. I mean, it got better. It got better to what it could do. And then they took that experience and brought it to the Q90B and did it even more. So possibly by the end of this year, the Q90B might be even better, which I expect it to be. Now, the big one, Brandon, the big one, literally, the 85-inch. Your initial thoughts, is it better than the Q90A last year?
Oh yeah, it's definitely better. Like I agree with Cecil. There's no question. Like it doesn't suffer from the same issues that I had when I got mine last year. Initially, I was watching like the movie Bright, where it was in a dark scene, very small candles and stuff around, in the perimeter, and you could hardly see them. They wouldn't peak very bright, and there'd be blooming around them. This year, there's like, it's way different. Here, I have a little, let me just screen share real quick. I'm going to screen share my own video, so I don't think that should be a problem, right? Can you guys see that?
Wait, are those both 85 inches?
No, on the left is that's the Samsung QN90B, and on the right, that's my 83-inch Sony A90J.
I see the contrast difference for sure.
No, I mean it's the Samsung is far better, dude. Is it? Oh no, I mean you can't say this. It's not the contrast. It's just the sheer brightness coming out of this Samsung. Like these scenes last year when I did this, or even just I only did it like 3 months ago with this QN90A. It was not that bright on this kind of stuff versus the Sony. So like you would just kind of like it looks similar, and some things would be brighter. But this year it's just like I feel like they have like opened up the brightness, and they are not so concerned about how perfect black levels are, but it's still very close on the black levels. But I feel like it's got just a little bit more. It's just the panel in general is just not quite as perfectly black, but there's still no blooming. Like here, let me play this little thing from Dune.
Can you share how bright this room is when you took that shot?
Well, I did this Dune stuff in dark and bright. Watch. So this Dune stuff, like, this is in a somewhat normally lit room, but I mean, this Dune scene is like one of those things where, like, when they show, I put down there, this is incorrect. The Sony has more detail. It does not. But like right here, where you have a scene where it's like pretty dark, these highlights in these smaller things were not like as bright on, you know, the one last year. It just wasn't. It would just for some reason you'd see some blooming around them. And like when it was pretty remarkable how good the Samsung looked. And, you know, my editor was sitting here with me and being like, dude, this video is going to sell a lot of TVs from Samsung. And I don't even like, you know, it kind of makes me a little bit angry. I'm like, oh, my A90J isn't that good. But like here, look,
I sold it just in time before the video came out.
It's still awesome. But like, let's see if like,
well, in a dark room.
But I'm saying even in a dark room, I couldn't see much detail in Jason Momoa here. Like it's really hard to see detail in this video, in this movie. Like these scenes are like, you're like, what am I looking at? But like there was just a lot more coming out of the Samsung. It's an LCD, of course. Let me see. But like right here, you can see the you know, the logo or what do you call it? The closed captioning. It was so much brighter on the LCD. So the point is I'm very impressed as well. And
now,
you know, it's pretty impressive.
Real quick for those watching, and I know Cecil knows this, Samsung out of the box, they like to pump up the midtones. It doesn't follow the EOTF. If the creator's intent was the Sony, you got to blame the creator. But Samsung's like, BS the creator. I think my way is better. And so possibly if you calibrated, then suddenly it looks like the Sony. Now I'm just guessing. So that's a possibility. I know Classy is going to look into it, but that's something for a lot of you to think about is if you calibrate both TVs, they may end up looking identical. And then you'll be all like, wait, what happened to
I don't know about that.
Right? It depends on the picture settings.
First of all, I don't know about that. And secondly, most people don't get their TVs calibrated.
There you go. That's what I was going to say is they might not want to get it calibrated.
You put these TVs against each other in a room and it's pretty much no contest as far as like the overall peak brightness and just the wow factor. I mean, everybody, like I had 5 kids come over and everybody was like, holy crap, that TV looks awesome. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's better. And I still love OLEDs and I can get away in a dark room. I don't care, but it's an impressive TV. And I think they fixed some of the problems that we were complaining about last year, you know?
I completely agree. Classy, what do you think? Do you think, I know you haven't calibrated, so I'm projecting, I'm speculating, this might end up being what the creator intended. What do you think right now, Classy?
It depends on the picture mode and the settings, because if you're in movie mode and you set the settings correct, like it actually does follow EOTF now. They fixed that on the 90A at some point with a firmware update. At least the one that I had over the last 3 weeks did. So I'm sure this one pretty much the same.
Oh, were you in movie mode, Brandon?
What's that? I
assume you were. Were you watching in movie mode?
Yeah, I mean, I moved around in a few different modes, but yeah, it was in movie mode.
All right. Well, okay. So let me conclude with this. If this is Samsung's last year or second to last year for QLED before they move over to another technology, maybe QD-OLED or QNED, finally, how long did it take them? 5, 6 years for what initially we can say they're 99% of OLED. Now we're going to go through a lot of challenging scenes, but this is pretty close, right, Classy?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say too, like the 90A was like their first, you know, they're bringing out the hardware for mini LED. This year, they actually reduced the zone count. but that with the new processor makes the zones transition so much faster. It is far improved in the blooming and the backlight control, especially in gaming. Like, that's the biggest thing. If gaming is important, go for the B over the A, regardless of the price difference, because the backlight is just so much faster.
Now, and this brings up another question. So we're excited about the QN90B, definitely. The release of the QN95B this summer, I think the people who have the specs, it shows that it's supposed to be a little bit better, like better processing something, but it is definitely about $1,000 more expensive in Europe. So in the US, it might be end up being the same, right? $800 to $1,000 more for 65-inch. The question then, Classy, is what should they be expecting? Is there any change to the image quality, or is it all non-image quality? Better stereo, better remote, all the stuff that people don't care about, but are willing to pay a little extra for.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's basically going to be the same picture, just with the different stand, the One Connect box, the different speakers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think this is a year where we could assuming quality controlled, banning DSC, all that good stuff. Hey, Bat Tech, thank you for that super chat. Guys, I have an S95B coming and a QN90B. So this man is a Samsung fan. Congratulations. Now, I don't know which one's going to be better. Hey, you're going to have both. You tell us. QN90B looks so nice. Hey, so based on these comparisons already, do that head-to-head and you tell us. I'm really excited about the QN90B. So this is, if they can get the DSC under control, right? But speaking of DSC, I should have asked you, Brandon, did you notice anything?
Yeah, it's not great. I showed it for a bit. Mm-hmm. It's not perfect. It's there, and I don't know. I get like the impression from most people that I install TVs for that they don't even look for it and they don't even care.
Exactly,
and they don't see it. And when I initially showed my editor like what was up, he was like, I'm more looking at like the motion blur and some of the artifacting he saw in like the Modern Wise hockey test. And he didn't really notice. But then when I showed him kind of what he needed to do, which is watch the hockey guy, but really like look behind it and see, he's like, oh yeah, I kind of see the blotchiness. And it wasn't like, it was just kind of general blotchiness again. It's just unfortunate. I feel like, and this is not like 100%, but I feel like the anti-reflective coating on the TV was a little less than it was last year. When I have a direct light on it, it doesn't look to be, I can kind of see some direct light back at me, where last year when I had a direct light on it, it would like totally destroy it. It would like, so I don't know. I mean, it still has a rainbow. There's no question about it, but I'm just saying, I know that they have varying levels of this because like in 2016, it was different and it's kind of gotten more aggressive each year. And I feel like they stepped it back a little bit, but I'm not certain on that. I saw a reflection of my window in the TV, which is the first time I've really noticed that in a Samsung. Right. But overall, it definitely still had some of the dirty screen effect on mine anyways.
And just for everyone
here, Classy, you want me to show that picture?
No, actually, it's from my review. But you can see this line down the middle. Like that's the biggest part of the DSC on mine.
So this is a 65-inch size, right? This is yours, Classy. Okay.
Yeah. And then I was going to show like the blooming. Here's subtitles and a dark scene with black bar underneath. And you can see the black bar stays black.
Yeah.
And the worst case for blooming is going to be this scene right here. So like that's about as bad as it gets.
Still always going to be challenging with stars, right?
Right. Oh, right there. I see a little blooming.
I see a little bit there, yeah.
But then you get, scenes like this, and that's where it just really shines.
That's awesome.
That looks amazing.
Really, if you're going to complain about this TV, you have to say, dirty screen effect. I don't like Samsung because it doesn't have Dolby Vision or something like that. But there's not, and to be honest, I guess the other thing that I haven't reviewed this TV. I mean, I haven't made the review, but I'm going to, and I will be like, I did see a upscaling difference in the Sony versus the Samsung. The movie Dune looked cleaner. It looked better. I mean, that's not even really upscaling, but I'm just saying processing creation. It just looked better. It looked like cleaner. The Samsung had some more, noise into it. And when upscaling similar, just not quite as good. But then when I was watching the Samsung TV Plus content, it looked better this year than last year. Like it was like the resolution looked almost like it was 4K. I was like, damn, this looks a lot better, because I remember last year it looked like crap. And I used to watch Samsung Plus when I had it in 2016, and it just looked like garbage. So it definitely looks better. It's getting a lot improved.
And I want to hit this comment real quick because I think it's important. So Tech says it's not going to be the last year for Neo QLED. They're just trying to figure it out. And you know what? I just thought about it when I saw your comment, KG. I agree, mostly because this. If the mass reviews coming out from both YouTubers and written journalists and all that are in agreement that this is the best Samsungs yet, and they sell well, they have a huge margin of profit if they continue with Neo QLED. If it is that close to the OLEDs and they can manage the DSC where people don't really notice it, yeah, they could roll in the bucks for the next few years and never have to go technically to QD-OLED. Leave it as a niche product for gaming or whatever. I'm just wondering, what do they do with QD-OLED or even LG OLED, because they do want an entire market. So that's a good question.
Here's the thing. I absolutely agree. When you said that, I was kind of like, I'm the same way. Like, I don't think these are going anywhere, because worst case scenario, if QD-OLED or higher technologies take over, then maybe these become the new cheaper TVs for like the everyman. And like, to be honest, can you imagine having something like this priced at like $1,000 for a 65-inch TV? Like, come on.
Sure.
So, I mean, LCD TVs, I don't think are going anywhere. I'm not the newsman, but I think they'll be around, you know.
Now, what KG, so if everyone doesn't know, he has the QN90B, and he's confirmed his TV is an ADS panel. And no, it looks great. So watch his video if you haven't. He's doing a series on the QN90B. We're going to talk with him later in the week about, well, what happens if you take a step down from the QN90B, right? What does saving money take away, other than a little bit of the money off the top? But is it still good enough? And I think Samsung's beginning to finally understand what they can do and get away with. Speaking of getting away with, we have Christopher Super Chat. Thank you so much. Any advice for moving house with a 65-inch LG C10 without the original box? Oh, so
I'll take this one.
Please.
Oh, you want it? Oh, you go.
No. I was gonna say, I just bought these boxes off of eBay and they were overpriced.
There you go. So, I was gonna say, if you want to take it, I moved about 2,000 TVs in my career, but go ahead if you want. No, I'm just joking around. To be honest, it depends on if you have a truck or a big back seat. Like, you can literally just take a TV and you can put something soft in your back seat and lay the TV screen facing it. I know it sounds crazy, but you can. It's perfectly fine. I've moved a lot of TVs with the screen facing either way. If you face it with the screen facing out, which is fine too, just make sure nothing's going to hit the screen. Maybe like your wife holds this TV kind of like this in the back seat while you're going, but it's fine to do it like that because it's smaller. But Home Depot does sell boxes that you can get where it has padding, and you can take the bubble wrap and take the bubble wrap at like Home Depot or Office Max, wrap it up with the bubble wrap, and then get one of those boxes that have the corner. They have 4 corners on them of like padding, and then it has 2 halves that slides together, and then you can put it in that. So either way works, but if you put it in the box, it just makes it bigger and bulkier. But yeah, so that's what I do. I mean, I've been moving TVs forever, so I'm comfortable moving it without a box. But if you're not, just get one of those at Home Depot for sure.
Yep, there you go. Sergio, thank you for that super chat. FOMO, what's up? I have an X900F 55-inch in my dark bedroom. I use for gaming, watching YouTube movies. Would upgrading to an OLED be a big change? A80J. Oh, yes. Both in terms of just contrast, your specular highlights are going to be better, HDR. It's any OLED, by the way, not just the A80J. C10, C1, C2, A80J, A80K. You're going to love it. And because you have a dark bedroom, you can go total movie actor mode, and it's going to pop. I think it'll be a phenomenal upgrade for you. Definitely. What are your thoughts if you go from an X900F to an A80J?
Yeah, that's going to be the big jump. I mean, going from the 900H to the A80J was night and day.
Night and day. Also, can I just put this here? I just want to put this comment up here. Michael Wyckoff might be the most positive person I've ever met in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Love the dude.
Positive.
So shout out to Michael. What's going on, man? He's so nice.
Yes, and we're happy you're here, Michael. Thank you for coming.
I'm happy. You know what? That's a good way to look at life. I'm happy to be here today too. That's all there is to it.
I got my limbs. You know, I'm in the safety of my home. I mean, it cannot be this.
Absolutely.
This
I got my scooter here, so I can scoot away when needed.
I have 2 working ankles.
Yeah, I don't. Damn it.
Hey, 2 out of 3. Hey, Leo, thanks for that super chat. Hi, FOMO. Tell Classy his QN90B video this morning was right on. Well, he's right here. You can tell him yourself.
Nice.
Brightness, color, contrast. Great job. You are on fire. Now, this actually goes to a very important question for you, Classy. What TV would you have then this year, given what you've seen so far, right? I know you haven't seen the A95K or any of that, but if you were to stop time right now and buy a TV for your home theater, what TV would it be? Would it be the QN90B?
Well, the only thing that really holds me back from Samsung is the motion, the force upper effect. So for a lot of people, that's not a problem, but for me, it is.
What specifically?
Tell him why. Yeah, he actually explained it to me nicely over the phone. So go ahead.
There's no 4-letter word.
Turn off the motion settings, and it still has a tiny bit of smoothing added, and it's enough that I see it. And so, movie purists that don't like any smoothing at all, they will be just extremely bothered by it.
And to be fair, Sony has a little bit as well, but not as much as the Samsung when you turn it off. Is that why the Sony's more bearable for you?
Actually, the Sony, the OLEDs anyway, not the LCDs, but the OLEDs, when you set the smoothness to 1, is even less than this off.
There you go.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I haven't taken like that full time into that motion. But you had said that, and I remembered when I was doing I think it was like the QN90A versus the A90J or something. And I did some sort of scene. I believe that's what I did. I did like a scene where it was panning. And I'm like, wow, you know what? Even when everything's off and it's pure, just straight up, I'm like, the Samsung looks smooth. And that's probably why, is because they have that artificial, they're still doing some of the motion smoothing. So that's interesting.
Yep. Agreed.
So that's why I'm still getting the 83-inch G2 as soon as Robert gets them in.
Oh my gosh. The 97 G2.
By the way, the G2 are in. It's just a matter of where are you in the world, and if you need,
the 83 is 18th of next month.
Are you getting the 83? Is that why you're waiting? That is why. Yes. How many of you guys out there are looking at the G2 sight unseen or waiting for the reviews? The G2 is pretty impressive, but I think that kind of takes us to the theme of the C2 and the G2. What are you expecting the G2 to be better at than the C2, given that we're getting pretty good, some positive comments about the C2, Classy?
If you heard what Dinai said, it's pretty much exactly on both of them where I thought both of them would be. The C2 is basically the same as the C1, and then the G2 is like a 10% bump, and after calibration, 900 nits. Like, that's exactly where I've been saying it's going to end up. That's exactly what I expected. What I was happy to hear is it sounds like Dinai said that the color volume is improved on the G2. So that's a big reason to go for the G2. And honestly, at this point, with the price differences, I'm telling people get a C1 or go all out on a G2. And especially at 48-inch, I don't know if you saw that there's some European 48-inch C2 reviews out there now.
Right.
And the 48-inch is the same stand, the same body, the same everything, just different processor. And it's like $400 or $500 more. So if you're getting a 48-inch, absolutely get the C1. And also, it's confirmed panel lottery again this year. Vincent Teo got the 42 with the 2020 panel. Not even the WBE 2021. It's the 2020 WBC panel in the C2. So
not even the EX panel, not even the 2021 panel. You're going back 2 years now.
You got a response from him too. Like, what's up with that? He's your boy.
Because I asked him to confirm, because on the C1 there's a code on the box that tells you which panel it is, and on the C2 they changed that. They changed it in the service menu, so you can't tell in the service menu. And I don't know if you guys caught when they had that European event, the LG Electronics rep was adamant that they do not acknowledge the EX panel, that they only get they source the most advanced panels from LG displays. That's all they would say. And that's their way of saying they can use whatever panels that they get
there you go
in their TVs, and it's going to be a panel lottery. So even the G2 is going to be WBE or EX. So it was a 2021 or 2022 model.
And so, people are asking, well, why would they do that? Well, in 2020 or 2019, if the most advanced panels, whatever they have, and they still have 1,000 of them sitting in the warehouse, technically that was the most advanced panel they got 3 years ago. They just haven't finished incorporating it into all their TVs. That's how they can get away with that. So that makes sense.
They got return periods for a reason. But not everyone has the technology to. You're gonna have to make a video on how to check and make sure which panel you got, and then do.
They're locking it down, so it's like Sony, where you have to have a Spectro and read the SPD in order to tell now.
Hey. I was gonna say, the minute I saw people reading the codes last year, I go, you know what, guys, this is not gonna last.
Hey, why don't we real quick? If you guys, there's a lot of people watching. Give us a thumbs up for Classy getting a response from Vincent. Vincent and Classy on the same level. Here we go. I like it.
That's right, man. Awesome.
Congrats.
Get out there, kill it.
Smash the like button. There's 200 people that haven't done it. Just, if a quarter of you do it, that'd be awesome.
G1 and save $1,000, or a G2, Classy. I mean, is the difference that big of a deal?
That's the thing that we can't tell yet until we have it. And what I really want to see is what the heatsink. If they're pushing it, like I said, if it's 900 nits after calibration, it's on par or slightly brighter than the A90J. And my problem with the A90J was like super bright scenes, the sky would lose its blue color. So if the G2 improved that, then I could see, certain people be willing to pay that extra money for that.
And that's why we have calibrated shootouts, so that you're all on the same standard. So this July, I'd say July 10 and 11, right, Classy?
Yep.
We're going to have all these TVs, the S95B, the A95K, the X95K, the QN90B, or maybe the 95B even get here in time. We're going to have all of them lined up, because this time Robert doesn't want to miss out on possibly a sleeper. And with Samsung doing what they are, we're all pretty excited. So yes, for sure. And this is something that Classy and I are always talking about. Can you guys show an example of motion smoothing? I thought it was good, actually helping with artifacts. So there are two types of artifacts, Mad. Artifacts when you have smoothing on, and artifacts when you have it off. I think LG and Samsung do well with it on. They really focus on that. And so on the Sony, if you max out the motion smoothing, it has more artifacts. However, if you go the other way and take off as much of the smoothing, toning it down, the Sony has then less artifacts than the other. So each TV has their specialty depending on what you like. That's been my experience with the various brands. So I think LG and Samsung, if you like soap opera effect, phenomenal, because they really do a good job of eliminating artifacts. What are you guys thinking about artifacts that Mad Mont is wondering? Because he can't tell. He thinks it's great.
In both instances, when we're doing that modernized screen, I don't know what motion that is. I don't know what frame rate and all that crap. But my point is when that hockey guy was moving around, there was more artifacts on the Samsung in both instances, with full motion smoothing, with nothing. So either way, the Sony had no artifacts as it was moving around when we had smoothness up or down or whatever. The other way, it was all on. It was doing it all over the place. So,
you have that Spears and Munzel disc, right?
I think so.
Yeah, because I mean the scrolling text at different speeds and stuff, and then the chili pepper one.
Yep.
Yeah. You're right. I do. I should get that out. It might be useful.
Only because on YouTube you may not always get the frame rate that you want.
That's what I'm saying. I have no idea. Yeah, I'm not very technical at it. It was just an observation I made, when I was watching it. And I'm not putting that in my review or anything. It was just I saw it as we were watching it.
Yep. And John, thank you for that super chat, my friend. Got the A90J, and I love it, except for I noticed some Venetian blind effect on bright skies while gaming. Yes, I know that Classy can address this because we talked about it before. Exchanged it for a different panel once, but I still notice it. Okay, Classy, is this an issue with the A90J? Is it an issue for all OLEDs? Let's talk Venetian blind on the A90J.
It's actually one of the more rare, I guess you would call it. It's not really DSE, but it's one of the more rare issues. Like the A90J that I reviewed was the only one that I had that I saw it on. I think it just has to do with how bright it gets pushed.
I don't really see it on either one of my OLED. I have two of them, and I don't really have that issue. So
yeah, and it's hard to see usually, and it's like only in very, very bright. Certainly, it has to be very specific scenes.
The uniformity is not perfect on the A90J. Like it's it's not perfect, but it was, you know, like it was far better than the Samsung than when I had them next to each other and we were doing those testing. So I don't notice. The only time I notice, you know, the funny thing is the only time I noticed any sort of DSE is when I turn on YouTube. Have you ever noticed that? They get that gray screen. It looks like about a 5% window or a 5% brightness or whatever grayscale you call it. And it's just like, it's one of the worst like things that comes on a TV. It makes every TV look crappy.
Yeah. And, you know, Sammy Prescott was waiting for the 83-inch G2 as well. And then, you know, D-Nice confirming that it's WBE panel and, you know, there's still that possibility of pink tint. Now he's just thinking, you know, he might just get the A90J where they put that filter on to offset the pink tint and not have to deal with doing those returns.
Oh, wait, what size did you say that
83.
Simon was? 83. So the 83 has a WBE panel lottery as well?
The 77 that D-Nice measured, I messaged him after. He said it's the same WBE SPD reading that we've been seeing. Both of those 77s are. So that means that all of them are going to be WBE panels. And that's where this whole EX thing is. And D-Nice has been saying it too, and I've been saying it. The EX is pretty much just the WBE with the heatsink or additional processing or just whatever marketing term. And that's why I just don't give 2 cents at all to marketing terms. It means nothing.
So let's bring this up and talk about it. So for everyone who's confused, because they're hearing Evo from LG Electronics and this EX OLED that we're talking about from LG Display. So LG Display manufactures OLEDs for everybody else. Sony, even Samsung, Philips, Panasonic. This year, LG Display is saying we have this new version of the OLED panel called the EX. So what they did is took the prior year's panel, right, the WBE, and they removed some circuits using software to monitor the burn-in with AI. They added more graphite or whatever that carbon composite is to make it lighter. But you notice so far, we're not talking image quality. Then they said, well, we may have added more deuterium. Well, who knows, right? But ultimately, it's not about image quality so much as thermal efficiency by, pulling the heat out more a little bit with a carbon fiber, whatever composite, and heat management with AI rather than individual wires for pixel monitoring. So far, it hasn't really focused on image quality, just making it less expensive because less wires, less expensive. Packaging is a lot thinner. It's about 20% lighter just by doing that for the G2, and the C2 is like almost 40% lighter. So far, it's all packaging and thermal efficiency, right? And so it's refinements, right? And then the processing is a little bit better. So the AI now allows every 500 hours, it does a light refresh, or before every 2,000 hours, it was a heavier refresh. These are refinements, but when you put them under the light with all the measurements, image quality is the same. So you should be able to save a little bit of money if you get the G1 and it's less expensive than the C2, but don't expect like a huge jump in image quality. And that makes sense why the G2 added the heatsink, right? Oh, well, you know what? We want to compete with the A90J. Let's make it a little bit brighter. So
yeah. And with the build of the G2, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear heatsink, I'm thinking finned, pretty thick aluminum, whatever. But when it comes to the G2 with how thin it is, it's just got to be like a super thin plate, like on the back of it, just like what's in a laptop.
Right.
So it's not going to be like a huge difference. It's just going to help. Like the G1 was already very good with image retention. And
you bring up a good point, Classy. I spoke to Brian this morning because I was asking about his impressions. And he's like, the G2 is thicker than the C2. That heatsink, so LG Display has nothing to do with that part of the thickness. This is the thinnest ever from LG Display, but once it hits LG Electronics, they add that heatsink. He feels it's almost twice as thick, possibly, as a C2.
Of what?
The thickness, the OLED. The G2 is thicker.
But the whole TV is just
the G1 was
because all around it's thicker.
They spread it out.
Right. The G1 was like 3/4 of an inch, but it was like the whole way though. So you're saying like it's around that same thickness?
It's thicker than the G1 because of
it's fine though. I mean, it's so thin, like because you have no base part of the TV, it's awesome. Like even if it was like an inch with that kind of angle that they have on the sides. Now, the only thing that they need to do is they got to make sure that the mount works because that thing was a hunk of junk last year. But
they put out the video on it. I sent it to you. I don't know if
I did. Oh, you did? I'm so sorry. No, I I've been busy. My bad. Did you
Right.
text it to me or what?
I think I just tagged you on Twitter, but yeah, LG put out a video on how the G2 mount works.
Is it like 4 screws this time? Does it have 4
It
bolts?
looks pretty much the same to me, and they
Really?
actually, like on the larger sizes, like the wire channels, you have to run them very specifically, I guess, because they only fit certain size wires now.
I'm gonna have to check this out, dude. Because like, what are they gonna do with the 97 inch? You can't put that on 2 bolts. Like it's 97 inches. I guess they're just thinking don't move the TV, because when you move it, it's like really wobbly-ish, you know, as S.
Yeah, you don't want doing this. Maybe that's what the flexible OLED is for. Hey Leo, thanks for the super chat. I want a 2022 QN90B. Last year's was my fave over the G2 and the QN90A. Okay, this is unique. Leo 7, you are the one that has chosen QN90B over these other two. No VRR and less contrast than Neo is why I returned it. Yes, that is why we don't like it. Its contrast is worse. Please find out when it releases. Okay, Leo, I will find out. We're going to have Robert Zone on tomorrow, so I'll try to remember. If you make it to the live stream tomorrow, Robert Zone will answer, because he does sell the QNet99 for 2022, but I'll try to remember and ask him about that. But yeah, will it have VRR this year? I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking on LG's site. The G2 is 1 inch now thick, whereas last year it was 3/4. So it's only
here. Let me put this on real quick too. I want to show you guys something, just so that it can, because it is improved. Let me show you real quick.
Yeah, I mean the mount in the video looked like slightly different, but overall it looked similar to
No,
me.
it does, but it's different. But I'm so sick of this. I'm not like the worst with screen sharing. Okay, so you see on this, can you see it? Oh, it's because my screen is okay. Goodness, sorry. Okay, you see, it has a hole at the top and the bottom. So it has a hole. It has 4. It's going to have 4 screws. You see? Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
There's one right there for the top hole, and there's one for the bottom hole. So there's 4. So there's going to be 4 bolts on the back of the TV.
Okay.
There's the top one. So instead of it wobbling, it'll have 4 points of contact, which mean it shouldn't wobble back and forth. Mm-hmm. So that's an improvement. It does look the same, except this front piece is a lot taller and will hang below the mount, or below the wall bracket, but it'll have 4 points of contact. So that immediately makes me much happier.
And if you go a little bit further, you'll see where they like distinguish the 77, the 83, like has a different back and the way you have to route the wires.
Yeah, where is it? Like right here?
Yeah, right around there. Like just after that, it'll say 77, 83 and have like an asterisk.
Oh yeah, so you have to run them down this. Oh wow, that is weird. How do I press there? I'm trying to let you guys see it. Okay, and then they go down the side like that. Where are they going down the side? Are they coming out like they're?
And also, I bet you the 97-inch has a different mount, because it's limited to the 83 and 77. So I'm sure 97 is different, right?
The 97 has got to have something bulky, but you know, like that's the same thing with. I'm gonna stop sharing this. That's the same thing with the big 100-inch Sony. It has its own, like, you have to have it like professionally installed. It has like its own thing. I don't know, dude, but you know what? That TV for 30 grand. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I know. Come on, that's for. I tell people it's for the Wall Street bonus crowd. Come on, guys.
I mean, you might as well just start thinking about getting like a micro LED if you're going to pay 30 grand.
Oh, yeah, because it's only 80 grand. What's another 50, right?
Or 2 with a QN90A.
Right.
Yeah, or like I mean the 100-inch. Like this is my thought process so far from what I've seen on this TV. If there was a 98-inch QN90B, are they going to make one, a QN90B?
It might come later, but they might skip the B and go for a C next year. Depending.
I mean, I would buy this version at 100-inch. It would be on my list of something that I would finally replace my 83-inch A90J with. I would consider that.
You know what? I have to say I'm close to siding with you on that as well. Other than the possible DLC, but Brian's telling me that they have better QC on the larger ones. But yeah, I think for 10 grand,
because like, yeah, if you're like, I don't really want to go with like a laser projector. Like I'm like, dude, you know what? If you give me because that would fit, but then I wouldn't get the speaker, you know, the speakers that work with my A9 or my HD-A9, but I might be selling those anyways. But my point is that is the size TV that would fit in my room right now. and that would be something like I couldn't 25 grand or 30 grand. Not gonna
that's nuts. Hey, DPS, thank you for the super chat. We caught your question. 83-inch A90J, customer returned for $2,700. Top left corner is bent. And I know Brandon is a pro at getting these open box specials. Ran a test disc on Oppo 203, no apparent banding, DSE, or visible issues other than the slight bend. Possible long-term issues? Brandon, what is your recommendation for this particular model?
I don't have a recommendation for that. I mean, like,
but now if it's Best Buy, with that.
So what happened? Customer return for 20. Dude, I would not buy that. No way.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I don't know. I mean, like, if it's got physical damage, how did it get it? And if it, something else might, I don't know. Maybe that's something that Classy may have seen in the owner forums more than I would know, because I don't get a lot of. I mean, I know that one time I installed a TV, and the guy jammed his router behind the mount, and it moved his OLED forward, and then he got a crack. He got a few cracks across the visual part of the screen, and I'm like, dude, I told you not to shove your router down that hole. I told you not to, So, and he was like, oh, it was like a C8. I'm like, well, now it's time to buy the C1.
Yep.
I'd say if you're getting a 5-year warranty with it and it doesn't bother you, then whatever.
That's a good point. You can actually have Best Buy say, listen, I'll take it off your hands if you throw in maybe even just the Total Tech 2-year or something, or maybe the 5-year is probably a better idea.
And the possible long-term issues, I think with many electronics, if it's going to last 2 years, it's going to last 5 years. It's one of those things where you're going to see it in the first 2 years. So if you are a Total Tech member, and I'm assuming this is Best Buy, right? If you're a Total Tech member, then you don't have to buy anything additional. You get the 2 years coverage, but you could always ask them to throw in the 5-year. Just give me the 5-year, and like Brendan said, I'll take it off your hands. And they more often than not actually do it because they don't want this TV. And now you have full coverage, and they will come to your house and remove it, by the way. If the 83-inch has any problems, you don't have to lift it off the wall. Part of the coverage will come there and you're done.
I'd say go ahead and get the Total Tech for the $200 and then have them cut you a deal on the 5-year and have both.
It's an Amazon customer return purchase. And then also he said it's not just the bezel, but it's the actual screen is bent. I think I would stay away from this.
Get a 77-inch A80J. I mean, the list goes on. You have so many great 77 inches.
Maybe you're better off trying to buy open box at Best Buy. I wouldn't buy an open box unless I could see it. I don't know where you see an open box from Amazon unless he just bought it, got it home, and then saw that. I don't know.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, be careful with the open boxes, guys, because with Amazon, you don't even get to touch it. At least with Best Buy, you show up, you can, all right. Hey, John, thanks for that super chat. B, did you have the A90J and the QN90B both in HDR10? So he's talking about your comparison.
Yeah, of course.
In Dolby Vision, I mean, I want to see. I'm not seeing the FOMO for the Dolby Vision when it comes to Samsung.
It couldn't
splitter.
Yeah, I had it. It was HDR. It was 4K HDR because you can't when you put it in a splitter through an Apple TV. Right. If you have it in a splitter, the Samsung just goes haywire and turns like a green with it can't see it. So you have to put it in HDR. So therefore you can't compare Dolby Vision TV with a non-Dolby Vision TV like that. And I mean, I have done it in the GUI before. Done it where I timed them and then I press play at the same time. And honestly, for the most part, I don't really see a huge benefit for Dolby Vision versus the HDR10 Plus or whatever. But I'm always like, if you're going to have a Dolby product, I want it because Dolby's pretty good at stuff. So I'm just more like that. But
this brings up I was going to say, it brings up a great question. Classy did the investigation. He put it together a video telling us whether Dolby Vision is all that. So Classy, why don't you give a quick abridged version? What were your findings about Dolby Vision versus HDR10?
Well, we were talking to Stacey Spears, and that was the biggest piece of information is that there's a transition period right now from Dolby Vision 2.9 to 4.0. So then I went on the Dolby Vision site, started reading all the documents on that, and Dolby Vision 4.0 brings a lot of upgrades. It's just not really here yet as far as in the content, like some content, but not much. So It's just Dolby Vision's kind of in multiple places. It also depends on the implementation from the TV manufacturer, LG and Sony, they all do it differently. So the technology is good, and it's 5 years from now, maybe we'll be having a different conversation. But right now, there's just too much inconsistency.
And so let's talk about inconsistency. One of the things that Stacey Spears mentioned that I was in shock, when you're getting a Netflix feed or Amazon Prime, they have different versions feeding at the same time. It may have the latest Dolby Vision. It may not be getting Dolby Vision. It may have an older Dolby Vision. Whatever your bandwidth, you may be getting a different Dolby Vision. So one day, Netflix looks great on Sony. The next day, wait a minute, what just happened? You have no idea what version of Dolby Vision you're getting or what bit rate of Dolby Vision you're getting. And whether you're even getting Dolby Vision, it may just be HDR10 another day. It's crazy. So until the streaming companies also standardize everything across the board, if you're going to compare Dolby Vision, you always have to use the disc. You know exactly what bit rate version or 4.0 or 2.9 version of Dolby Vision you're getting, and so forth, and all that good stuff. Hey, Brainwaves, thanks for this question. I think this comment is important. Most people here are only talking about luminance, not overall contrast, clarity, which is what is important. People are brightness obsessed. And this is where we don't like talking, what's the peak specular highlights, right? Or what's the peak brightness? You will never see the peak brightness. Like last year, the A90J, peak brightness, 1300 plus. You will never see 1300 anywhere. So that's something you have to keep in mind is a lot of these peak brightness measures is on a square white box. You're not going to get it outside of that white box in a real movie. And if the movie doesn't ask for brightness, well, why are you getting brightness anyway? But yeah, that's something as reviewers you have to remind.
Here's another thing. The other thing is too, well, I mean, to combat that, I understand people are saying in my video, the unboxing, I did a big unboxing video. My wife helped me. So if you haven't, seen it,
go wife.
Yeah, Jen is doing great. She brings the crowd, but Marquise Brownlee does videos where he takes phones and compares like a really expensive phone to a lesser phone and does like a blind A/B test. And most consumers tend to pick the one that just has the more punch and the more brightness. So it's like we're talking about like, a lot of the people in these conversations are like movie purists or whatever, calibration, talking about all that stuff, but your general consumer, is going to look for that wow factor. And I'd have to say I watched that Dune movie and I was not happy to see that my A90J could not compete with this TV in dark scenes. And last year
in dark scenes, right?
Last year in the QN90A, it could not get that dark and show those highlights. This year, when I don't know if you guys have seen, but when they're attacking the King's thing in Dune, that is a dark scene. There's a lot of like dust and dirt. When the fire hit in those scenes, it was so effing bright on the QN90B. I was blown away. That did not happen last year with the QN90A. It didn't.
Yeah, and then so like with LG this year, their thing like they're focusing on is the Dolby Vision IQ Precision something. Whatever the marketing.
Off, right, do you ever have that on?
No, that's for the C2 G2
coming out,
right? And what they're doing is they're dividing the image up into 2,000 different zones, and every frame it examines 2,000 zones of where to send the majority of the energy. So just because the C2 and the C1 gets the same nit measurement on a pattern doesn't mean in the content, when the processing is doing all this extra work now, that it's not able to send more energy to highlights and things like that. So that's where you see brightness difference when it doesn't measure different.
Do you like that? You're a calibrator. Is that going to make you happy or not?
That's something that I like, the IQ mode, whatever. I don't use that. I turn that off.
It's like the XR process. The XR processor does this, right? Where it
and it's at a base level, the processing still does this anyway throughout the image. It's just specifically that's what they're marketing now, is that precision thing with the 2,000 zones. But they've also changed the way the tone mapping works and different things. So there's a lot of processing involved in how the brightness comes across in real content. And that's the biggest difference with the 90B over the 90A, is this new processor is faster at the zone transition, so there's less blooming, and it's able to hit those highlights more.
Agreed. I think, hey, Jolster in the house. Thank you for coming, Jolster. Matt Tech, this is a really good question because it kind of relates to the video I put up the other day. Pass remote, be the installer. Does the QN95B make sense for North America? So the QN95B is technically the One Connect box version of the QN90B.
That's it.
And supposedly it should be the only difference.
That's it.
Europe is not getting the QN90B. What is Samsung thinking? Go ahead, Brandon.
That's it. I'm telling you, you said there's maybe like 32x quantum HDR versus 24x. I don't know. But my point is I think the last couple of years, the only difference has been either the 4 HDMIs and the One Connect box. This year, the QN90B has 4 HDMI 2.1s. And so, what is Samsung thinking? The One Connect box. That's it. Now, the One Connect box is useful, especially if you're going to wall mount it and you're like, oh man, like I don't want to have 4 HDMI cords go up the wall and come out the side of the arm and it's all a mess. The One Connect box really streamlines a lot of that. In the US, it's not technically, up to code to put that One Connect wire in the wall. It's just like a skinny little wire. So you're supposed to leave it outside the wall, but you can get away with it if you want, not advice. I'm not, don't do it.
And to answer that, to address what is Samsung thinking, if you don't have the QN95B, what is the most expensive 4K TV from Samsung? The QD-OLED. You cannot have that. They have to bring in the QN95B. Now the most expensive 4K TV is a QLED and not an OLED. But
I would get the if I was thinking I wanted the QN95 over the QN90, then I would just get the QN900B. Like that already has the One Connect box, and
5,000.
Yeah, but I mean it's expensive, but like I would take the 8K because I like the way that 8K looks with like the really thin black bezel. It has like it goes all the way to the edge, so there's like literally nothing but screen on that top TV, and that TV is really nice looking.
And that will be my reference TV. My reference QLED for this year is the QN900B, so we'll see how awesome that is. We'll compare it with the QN90B or the QN95B, whatever we can find out there. But for sure, though, I think Samsung is hitting it out of the ballpark this year. Just overall, I'm hearing great things about the QN85B, with its limitations, but it still sounds like a great TV that KG's checked out, and it's, $500 cheaper, $600 cheaper than QN90A. So all the TV companies, I think, are doing well. Sony does have a lot to meet as far as standards this year for the price they're asking. Hey, Devon Copeland, thank you for that super chat. For the starting price of the S95B or the G2, which is around $3,000, we will see. But how weird is that Samsung marketing on an S95B, like I said, Spomo said, what does being classy think about this S95B? So we're talking about how they're not even mentioning this quantum dot. They're just kind of putting it out there as an OLED TV or whatever, but it's priced like a G2. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the S95B?
I think it's in a tough spot because if you're going to go QD-OLED, I would go for the Sony with the heatsink. And based on what David Katzmeyer has said, it seems that there's no polarizer. So therefore, if there's ambient light, the TV grabs onto the light and it raises those black levels. So it's not going to be a very good mixed use TV. It's going to be a mainly dark room TV, whereas a regular WRGB OLED can be dark or mixed room. But then if you want something for a brighter room, then just get the QN90B. And it's so close now, like on the bottom end, the dark areas, it puts it in a hard spot to me.
And so you're saying that the QD-OLED model TVs, both the S95B and the A95K, does not have a polarizer, or only the A95K doesn't have the polarizer? They both don't.
It seems that all the QD-OLEDs don't, because even the monitor that I calibrated and reviewed, it grabs onto ambient light and it makes those black levels look gray.
So this is something a lot of you have to keep in mind. If you're reading reviews, a lot of people on the forums have mentioned that it's slightly lifted blacks, but it's not technically slightly lifted blacks. It's the ambient. I did not know about the polarizer, though, so now that makes complete sense. So the polarizer helps with contrast, all that stuff. Now, if you don't have it, what happens? Well, in a pitch black room, it's great. You turn on the lights and suddenly, wait, what happened to my blacks? That is interesting. And I'm wondering, and Sony clearly didn't know, right? Like, wait, this doesn't have a polarizer. What the hell? So maybe next year they'll add their own polarizer like they did last year with the A90J. They made their own filter and did not use LG standard filter. So, yeah.
And then the other thing we're seeing is because of the triangle layout of the subpixels, there's color fringing and chromatic aberration when there's something bright against something dark.
So can we talk about the triangle real quick since we're on the topic QD-OLED? So the triangle, I was under the impression was to help with the blue management. Many of you don't know, the biggest problem with quantum dot in the front as a color converting layer, you could not control the blue. It was leaking everywhere. And so putting it in this triangle layout helped separate it a little bit more. So now the blue is under control, but for movie content and stuff, maybe that looks fine. However, now we're getting for text where you need that sharp resolution, right? Is that where it's limited to, Classy, or is it extending beyond using it as a PC monitor?
We're going to have to do a lot of tests, and there's going to probably be certain real content scenarios where you'll see that fringing or chromatic aberration, but it's probably rare, but it's still possible to see it in real content. We're just going to wait.
And we know gaming is such a high, 4K gaming is sharp, right? And we're talking sharp. Any artifacts, you're going to see it in gaming, and this might not be a good gaming TV. I mean, well, you've done the Alienware as a gaming TV, right? You've done the calibration. What were your thoughts? Did you notice the fringing in the limited gaming content?
I had very little time to actually spend viewing content because I was calibrating it and testing it and doing measurements and stuff. So I need to give it more of a fair chance when I get one of the TVs. But I'm just thinking, like, if you're playing a shooter and you have a white gun in a dark cave or whatever, is that white on the black area is going to cause issues? They're going to see stuff like that. So we just gotta wait and see.
Yeah, the extreme contrast where you have something black, dark against white, that's where you're gonna see it. And if you're sitting, you know how gamers are, the 65-inch TV, they're like this, you're gonna see it. Whereas when you watch movies, you're really like 8 feet away, you might not notice. It's how close are you sitting to this S95B or A95K? And I think you're right. The closer you sit, the more you're going to see those issues where you might not see the pixels, but you'll see the artifacts. That's a really good point.
Can I, real quick, welcome to newer people that have arrived. We're talking about the new G2, C2, QN90B, and other TVs. Smash the like button if you guys can. 50 people did last time I asked, and now another 75 people have shown up. So I appreciate it. If you guys can all hit that, smash that like button, do it for whoever you like on the stream or all of us. We all love you guys. You're awesome.
Here's a great question, and I'd like to address this. Guys might have talked about this, but can LG Electronics buy from Samsung Display? Or would they never? Sony can get WOLED from LG and QD-OLED from Samsung, the best of both worlds. So absolutely, because guess who Samsung is buying from, right? Samsung Electronics, Samsung Visual is negotiating with LG Display to buy their WOLED. They need to get it at a low enough price so they can sell it cheap enough below QLED, obviously. But if Samsung can buy from LG Display, there is no reason why LG Electronics cannot buy QD-OLED. But here's the problem. LG Electronics does not know how to place QD-OLED. It would completely undermine their entire technology stack if they promoted QD-OLED as superior to OLED. And more importantly, the volumes coming out of Samsung Display is not high enough. They cannot push the level of OLED sales that LG is currently seeing. Even if QD-OLED came down in price, they need more manufacturing capacity. So maybe in a few years, but I don't think so, not right now. And by 2024, we expect better blues, right? The phosphorescent blue OLEDs are out there. LG may never have to go with QD-OLED. They could still keep running with WOLED. And I mean, we saw how great the G2 and C2 is this year. Most consumers may not notice this difference. It's very limited to content. And this is something that Classy has mentioned. If the content doesn't demand the wider gamut, the advantages of QD-OLED is really limited. You're not going to notice it even head to head. All right, but how much longer do we have, you guys? So we're at 12:15. Where are we stopping? What time are we stopping today? I know we started a little late, but I want to make sure I respect your time.
I'm good for a little bit. Whatever you want to do.
All right, maybe run another 15 minutes. You guys, any questions? Let us know. This is the early impressions of the LG C2, G2, QN90B. QN90B, I think, rocked the house, mostly because they've improved on the things that we hoped they would improve last year. The specular highlights are better, but they didn't lift the blacks, whereas the G2 and the C2 is slightly improved in processing, but not necessarily better panels, what we predicted it would be. So this allows QLED to be that much closer. And if it gets less expensive, OLED is racing downhill in price, though. So speaking of price, I want to share the pricing list for those who just joined us, just to see where everything is in the world, right? So this is where we are right now in terms of pricing. And there we are. Okay. So everything in blue is the new models coming out this year. Everything in yellow is last year's model, and they're going to be selling out probably by Prime Day, mostly gone. How close are these TVs? So let me ask you guys, which one of the 2021 models is so close to the 2022 models that you feel comfortable saying, you know what, the 2021 is fine. Save $500, $600, and get yourself a soundbar. Classy, which 2021 model would you choose over the 2022 successor?
Like I said, I think when it comes to LG, I would say if you want to save money, get a C1, unless you want to go all out for a G2. With Samsung, QN90A, if you're in a bright room and you're just watching TV and movies and stuff, but if you're gaming or in a darker room, then I would go for the B.
Okay, and I agree with you.
I would.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, sorry, man, my bad. I would say one of the ones that I would probably go for is I would just get the A80J right now and just say, I'm not even expecting a ton from the A80K. So if you have an opportunity to get the C1 or the A80J, those are great TVs. I had no complaints with either. So they're great. If you need a TV now or for the next year, you're not going to get prices like that until this time next year. So you might as well get one if you want to watch some TV.
All right. And that's another thing is don't rush into getting you could rush in getting a 2021 because you're afraid it'll sell out and this is a great price. And that's completely understandable. But the 2022, always wait until Black Friday or at least Prime Day, right? The first month prices are going to be very high, especially if we get good reviews on the QN90B. Samsung may push it a little harder and wait a little bit longer before they reduce the price. So consider the 2021. And if you have a 5-year-old TV, the 2021 TVs are phenomenal anyway. So you can save a little money that way. Should we expect a price drop on an A80J? Thanks, Adam Rosen, for that question. And the answer is yes. It's actually just dropped. Let me see. Let me put this up. That's why I think I updated it. So the A80J is now on the 65-inch. It is $1,800. So just last week it was like $2,000. Now it's $1,800, and it will continue to drop a little bit. I don't think it'll go below $1,700. It may hit $1,600 for like 24 hours or something like that. But the A80J at the 65-inch is now $1,800 on Best Buy. Now, 77-inch, it's still $3,000. I believe that's going to drop too. You just have to wait a little bit. Probably when the A80K releases, it'll get a big drop. So wait for the A80K and you'll see a good deal for the A80J for sure.
Yeah, the thing with the A80J is 77-inch, definitely go for the A80J. The 65 and 55 were panel lottery on the A80J. If the A80K is all new WBE panels, then I would say maybe go for the A80K in those sizes, just because we know that Sony doesn't software restrict them like LG does.
And this is for Badzilla. And the only reason I didn't have the 55 is I was trying to fit everything in. But just for you, on the next live stream, I will put in the 55-inch because oftentimes you have to go through all the sizes, and by that time, time's up. So, but because you asked, we will include the 55-inch and what the heck, 48-inch as well, right? So thank you for that comment, Badzilla. Don't say we don't love you. All right.
Yes, everybody wants to know what the best is in the certain sizes, but then it's like realistically, a lot of people like 55 is like good for like a bedroom size or even some living rooms. Like people. There's so many different rooms and sizes and ways, so it is good to have the smaller ones on there just because the prices aren't always super aggressive on some of those, but it's still good to have, I guess.
Yep.
But you guys have to remember, FOMO does a lot of work on these stuff, man. He's putting in the hours on YouTube for sure. I feel bad I don't do enough.
Yeah. What about the larger than 75?
Yeah.
The good news is there aren't that many TVs that have 85 inches. I mean, Sony has a few, Samsung, LG, but these are very expensive. But right now, I think don't I have a 75 up here or 85 larger? So let's see what we got here. And yes, so this is 85-inch over here on this column. This is like the far right. The far right are all 85 inches. So a lot of you don't realize because I cut out the sizes just to fit everything in. The first column is 65-inch. Second column is 75-inch. And the last column is 85-inch. And I cut it off at $4,000 because if you have more money, then I know you can buy anything you want. So at $4,000, it starts with the 2022 QN85B, which is probably going to be a VA panel like it was last year. And then 3,500 is the X95J, which I think is overpriced. 3,300 is the X90K, the 2022, which many people are saying that it might end up being possibly better than the X95J. And then the Samsung QN90A just got a slight price drop. It's at 3,000. QN85A got a price drop. It's at 2,700. And the X91J is still the cheapest high-quality movie-watching TV you can get at $2,000. So that's my recommendation if you want to get into, color quality, color accuracy out of the box, 85-inch. I'm a fan of the X91J for sure.
I'm a fan of the X85J too. I saw it against the X90J, and I thought that the X85J, I just don't, if I'm going to have like only 60 dimming zones, I'd rather have no dimming zones.
That's another point. Yeah, X91 might be a little bit brighter, but you got blooming.
For the most part, when I've seen it and customers and people like that are just not as into TVs as much, that is a really good looking TV for 2Gs. Like it's pretty nice.
And I think that one is just a little bit under 2Gs, right? 1,800 or something. So they're very close. Yeah. Hey, Rowland, thanks for the super chat. The X90J 65-inch is now $1,100. Best budget high-end LED TV right now, comparing against the TCL 6 series and Hisense 8. So we all have opinions about the X90J carrying over to this year. I think the X90K is going to come in at $1,100 by Black Friday. So if you can wait, the X90K may be the TV you want to wait for. But if you need it now, then get it now. What are your thoughts about getting the X90J at $1,100, Classy and Brandon?
Technically, I mean, the TCL and the Hisense will have more impact and punch, but the 90J is far more accurate, and the processing it's not even close. Mm-hmm. So if motion, sharpness, clarity, that stuff, like the whole package together, like that's why I just say the X90J. It's just a safer bet.
I can't disagree. I mean, the TCL 6 series are not like, I haven't looked at them and been like their highest level kind of LCDs, and the Hisense I've kind of been like ruined on them a bit lately because the motion of my the H9G, I didn't get a look at it since I've been looking at all these TVs, and I just feel like the motion is just kind of like really tough to deal with. It's hard to get any settings to make it look smooth,
And I love Michael Walker's comment. This is why you wait from 10,000 to 2,700. Come on, that's like the best discount ever. And a big thank you to Shango, who's always watching. We have a live stream. Hey, gentlemen, good afternoon. Given the current global events, with shipping prices going up and possible shortages, do you see a chance for TV prices going up or at least staying the same for a longer period of time? Okay, Shango, this is a great question. Prices, let's put that aside. It's more of certain TV models, sizes will just not be available. Like they'll sell out at that price, they won't raise it, but it'll be gone after 2 or 3 months. I see the 42-inch being one of those sizes. If you want a 42-inch, and I've put this on my channel, that is not a large volume out there. And it's a great price. It's under $1,500, under $1,400, whatever. But if you want a 42-inch, there may be some OLED sizes we have yet to see. And for sure, QD-OLED, there's not a lot being made. So, but it's expensive, so maybe that's not for you. But if you really want these TVs and you're okay paying MSRP, certain sizes will be limited. But yeah, I don't see prices going down on the flagship stuff quickly, but it will go down. Flagship prices always go down. At the end of the year, they always go down. It's just certain sizes, like let's say the 85-inch QN85A last year, very hard to find. It keeps on disappearing, right? But what do you guys think about shortages and prices, trends this year? Anything different? Anything changing?
Well, I wanted to say too, I definitely, there are probably going to be some like effects this year. I don't know if maybe, the TVs are already pumping out, so it's not a huge deal, but like, obviously I feel bad for anyone that's in Europe, especially people in Ukraine. I know we have a lot of viewers that are across the world, even some of the Russian consumers and stuff like that watch our stuff. I know that this kind of war thing is really unfortunate. And a lot of different countries that people watch videos from that we see taking in refugees, a lot of like different things going on. There's going to be a lot of like food shortages. And I just don't know how logistics are going to be, hit from these things. I don't know much about where things are all made from, but unfortunate. I hope everyone's doing well. And, just, we already had COVID issues. Now we have this, and it's just like, electronics and just a lot of supply chains in general for all kinds of products are going to be hit. But probably food more than TVs.
And let me step in too. That's very interesting. So I'm working with one of those standing table guys, right? His company is very, very successful, very popular. He can't get iron because Ukraine apparently is the number one source of iron. And so they're looking for new sources of iron. I mean, the conflict in Eastern Europe is affecting raw materials beyond just electronics. And you compound that with a chip shortage, and he's having a hard time just building stand-up desks. He cannot get motor controllers here. There's no iron here. Oh, and then Baltic birch or Baltic wood. Baltic, where is that, right? And then someone came in and bought it all. So there's none left for anyone else. So we're going to have a lot of issues if you're buying furniture, buying anything unrelated to electronics. So that's really a good point. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of issues.
I know there's a lot, like a very large percentage of the wheat is made in Russia and Ukraine too. So they provide a lot of food to a lot of poor countries in Europe and in Africa and such. So that's there's going to be a lot of like hungry people in the world. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. And we always like a balanced discussion. So yes, Leo, you are the only one that loves the LG QN90B, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone who thinks the LG QN90B is bad, check out my video and I will prove you wrong. Title is Call of Duty, Cold War, Xbox SX, Dolby Vision, Fractured Jaw Campaign, Mission, LG QN90B 8K. Look, every TV needs to have a fan. Someone's got to buy it. Someone's got to love it. And I'm glad you like your TV. What were your issues? Now, which one of you had the QN90B? Was it you, Brandon? You had it, right? What was your number one issue with it?
I mean, I had it. The thing is, it's just like I need a TV that is going to be able to be seen from all different angles. If you're buying an expensive TV, an 8K TV, it should be able to, if it's an LCD, it should be able to have great, highlights, but also be able to control blooming at a various, at a certain level, if it's going to be up there with some of the TVs that are in that same price range. And it just, there's no chance it's anywhere as close to like the Samsung QN900. It's not as good as even the QN90B. There's no way. So, I mean, I get it. And it's got Dolby Vision and it's got good gaming chops, but if you're watching it straight on, like the QN85A or B, they're great, but this IPS type panel where you're off angle, it's horrendous. It was just terrible. Even some straight on scenes, they're just, once you see a QN90A or B, you're not even close. So that's just where I stood at it. And so therefore I couldn't get past that to then start thinking about use cases. And if I can't make a review where I'm going to be like, okay, this is the person that should buy that TV, then I have no reason to write that review. I'm like, I can't offer it. I can't recommend it. So I'm glad that they enjoy it. And, it's fine. It's just, that's just kind of how I see it.
And to be fair, last year you didn't like the QN90A and a lot of people loved it, right? So
I didn't like it early on because the first thing I saw was dark scenes. I see blooming and I see no highlights. Like, how is that happening?
Yeah. And they changed it by the end of the year.
And I don't think I was still satisfied with it by the end of the year. I'm definitely more satisfied with the QN90B right now. Like right now, I didn't see the blooming and I did see the highlights. So just to see this extreme highlights in those dark scenes was rather impressive from an LCD screen that can keep the entire panel that black. It's just very impressive.
Yeah, it's the combination of IPS and mini LED that just creates a disaster off angle for some reason.
Right?
But like the HX310 monitor, the reference monitor, is an IPS panel. So it can be done right. It's just no one's done it right yet.
And since you're on it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I had a meeting with Sony yesterday talking about he's trying to explain something to me about this, the new A5000 speaker system, but he's like, it's just how IPS panels are really good from off angle where VA panels aren't. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, you can't go there for TVs. Maybe for like monitors, for computer monitors. It doesn't work like that for TV. It isn't. Well, from what I've seen, has anybody seen a IPS panel that looks better off angle than VA panels right now?
They hold color more, so it's like I said, it's the IPS plus mini LEDs that creates the problem.
The mini LED,
or just like dimming zones in general, kind of.
Yeah. If you just have like a basic IPS, you look off angle, you maintain the color. Yeah. It's just having those zones creates that blooming and washes it out, so it's pointless.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and since classy. Thoughts, HDR10 Plus or versus Dolby Vision, if you had a chance to see that?
The problem with HDR10 Plus right now is, like, I mean, I go on Amazon Prime and it plays the stuff in HDR10 Plus, but it doesn't mean that it's actually taking advantage of it. I don't see anything different, and like my 4K Blu-ray player doesn't support it, so like I would have to go get a new player for discs and track down the couple of discs that do it, and so it's just not ready yet. And for the gaming, like this has HDR10 Plus gaming now, but it's not on the consoles or anything yet. And
well, since we're on you anyway, this is questions directed towards you. Why does my A80J brightness drop to dark out of nowhere when I'm gaming? I can't stand it. Is there any way to fix this? And you should watch his video because he totally hammers Sony on this. But yes, let's help out Madmont here.
Yeah, so that's logo detection dimming, or ASBL, and what it does is it detects static elements, and then it just starts dimming down over a few minutes, and then you gotta like change scene entirely, or switch to a different input and switch back and get it to come back, and there's nothing you can do about it on Sony.
I've been getting some of that with my I've been watching Seinfeld on if you watch Seinfeld on Apple TV through, I don't know, Netflix, I guess it is. Some of these things, like you can't get them to frame match on the Apple TV. I don't know if that's like a common issue. I think it is, where some of it doesn't work with frame matching or HDR or whatever. It has some issues trying to decide what to put your TV mode in. But I'll be watching Seinfeld for a second and it looks really bright, and then all of a sudden it darkens down, and then the rest of the time it's just like darker. It's like weird. It's kind of tripping me out. I'll have to maybe talk with you offline, Classy, on why that could be, or if you can explain it now. I don't know.
Yep.
I haven't watched Seinfeld, and I don't know.
No, I just mean like in general, like it's just SDR content. It's in like Dolby Vision, even though it's like trying to force it, and it's trying to make it when I have it in HDR or I have it in SDR 4K, and then it's still like forcing it because it's like YouTube TV does that same thing. It's kind of like weird. And then it just like all of a sudden it dims everything down. It stays bright for a second and then dims it all down. And then it just stays like that. It's weird.
Here's a question for all of us. Thank you, Travis Sylvania, for the super chat. Let's have fun speculating. B, you seem happy with the blooming on the 85-inch QN90B, 1340 dimming zones, I think. Can we extrapolate that the 85-inch in the Q900B, that's the 8K, with maybe 2200 dimming zones, will be even better? And I'm going to start first real quick so you guys can talk. I think it will be better mostly because Samsung is holding back its processing to make sure that when you pay $8,000 or whatever it costs, it has to look better. But I think they could have made the QN90B look so close that people won't buy that 900B. But it will be artificially held back. But that's my opinion. What do you guys think about Travis's question?
I was actually going to say, Brandon, do you have one of these Samsung remotes?
No, I don't. Oh, yeah, I probably do.
If you can get one, they're like $6. That's how you get in the service menu, and it'll tell you the zones both across and down in the service menu, so you don't have to count.
Yeah, for sure. That would be awesome. I should have one. I had a couple older Samsungs.
But the question is, will it be better? Let's assume
I think it'll be. I mean, they have like, I felt like what we were talking about last year is that it seemed like the 8K wasn't held down with some of the efficiency ratings possibly or something like that. And, so we were saying, I just thought it was like a brighter screen. It didn't have some of the problems that the QN90A had last year, the QN900. I would imagine it would be similar or better. I don't think it could be any worse. I don't think the 8K would necessarily need to be any better. I think if it was just the 8K version, slimmer bezel, cooler looking TV, one connect box, and it was as good as what I'm seeing, I would still be happy with it,
Yeah, and there's less zones this year than last year. They reduced them by 10% and added a faster processor, yet the blooming is better. And that's what matters more is, does the processing match the number of zones so that it can transition them faster? Because if you put too many zones and the processing can't keep up,
exactly. Over 1,000 is plenty. And I agree. I was listening to you say that. I didn't make a point in the initial unboxing video to talk about that processing, but it's clearly a better TV. And people that have the QN90A that are in here that are like bummed or watching this going forward, it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, you're not going to like dump your TV you just bought and get a new one that's twice as expensive right now. So enjoy the TV. You still have, I think what we all probably agree was the best 4K LCD screen in 2021. Maybe the X95J was some people's favorite, but besides that, why would you dump the best TV of last year for now the best TV of this year? It just sounds like you're just going to always be chasing that unless you can sell it. But
yeah, that's where you go through Samsung and get their subscription
thing.
Yeah.
Just upgrade it. Or what, if it's the size that you can ditch off into a different room, then move it to a different room and buy another one.
Yeah, because I mean, we can all pretty much say next year the C is going to be an upgrade to this.
There you go. And I do think that the LCDs are going to be around for a while. I think, like what KG had said earlier, I think they've kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say it's like the end all be all. They finally did it. It's awesome or whatever, but it seems pretty darn close. And it seems like there's a lot of people still that are a little hesitant to get OLED. And for them, it's going to be something that not everyone can afford, a QD-OLED or whatever, or keep going up and up and up in price. So we're going to have a market. The majority of people are going to like an LCD that looks OLED-like,
Yep.
Yeah. So last year it was, if you were used to an OLED, it would have been hard for a lot of people to make that switch to the QN90A.
Agreed.
This year, if you're used to OLED, you could live with the 90B and then have that extra brightness.
And I'm getting comments still on my video. I looking at some of these. Oh, it's not fair. This is BS. It's just overall just exposure, and therefore there's no way it looks blown out. And I'm telling you, when you have like those scenes and there's explosions, the reason that it looks like there's blown out in the Samsung, and even if you had the Samsung by itself, is because the dynamic range is almost impossible to get that all on your
it absolutely
camera.
Is impossible.
It's like when that explosion happens, it like you as a person watching it, you can see all the detail, and it's like, wow, that's bright. But when you try to put it on a camera and you put it on 4K video and SDR on YouTube, and it gets like crushed by the whatever compression, just don't always believe what you see right there. I'm trying to tell you, as someone who has a really expensive A90J, I'm a bit bummed that my TV that's twice as expensive that's the TV I have, and that's the TV that's going to a client. And I'm like, damn it,
The cost of progress. Come on. That's why we have Stop the FOMO, right?
And that's why I'm still getting people that want to buy your TV that now I'll just say like, okay, well, I might get rid of it.
There you go.
I'll be like, I have one. I have used it more than FOMO's was like very little. Mine probably has 500 to 1,000 hours. I don't know, something like that.
Right.
But I'm still I got to keep moving TVs in and out anyway. So you got to do what you got to do. Mine has a full 5-year warranty from Best Buy too.
For people sensitive to motion or judder, in general, this is a great question I wanted to address. Jeremy,
your cat. Look at your cat. Oh, he just went behind you.
Oh, that's what. No, that was what the movie was.
Cat just went in front of the bear. Did you even see that or no?
It's like a filter. It's a cat filter he has.
His cat came down the hill. It was hilarious.
Yeah, because the computer. She sits on top of the computer and then just comes down.
Is it warmer up there? Is it warmer?
Yeah, because it vents from the top.
Yeah, so he's probably getting the warmth for sure. My dog does that too. He always sits on the heated blankets.
Okay, so this is a great question. How do I get rid of the screen judder on panning shots on the A80J 77-inch? So it is a Sony, so we should know. We know that, judder and stuff like that. So you're probably referring to stutter on panning shots. And this is a combination of a few things. First, is your source, the creator, purposely screwing up? Like if you watch that, I forgot the name of that movie.
Army of the Dead.
Yes, Army of the Dead, right? The Pyramid. He did it way too fast. No TV can get it right without some motion smoothing. And Don B has a good point. Fast panning motion artifacts and 24 FPS sources. There you go. You're going to have to go to almost soap opera to get rid of it. But now you have soap opera. Sometimes the source, the creator didn't do a good job. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't mind on Sony's. I think you can almost go. I can go to 2. I can't go to 3. But like on 2, it pretty much cleans most things up. On this, you're talking about the smoothness. Is that correct?
Yeah. Just make sure the Cinemotion setting. Just pretty much don't use high, because if you put it on high, it causes problem with too many sources. So lower off on the Cinemotion, and then smoothness 1 or 2, depending on if you want soap opera or not.
And if you really don't care about the soap opera, you can put it on 3. It makes it very like a little trippy, but it's know that'll get rid of it. I mean, that's gonna get rid of it.
Hey, next generation loves soap operas, so and yeah, we're all on 2. I'm a fan of 2 as well, because every now and then there's a slight stutter that I notice. Going on 2, I never see that, and I'm okay with that touch of soap that I know Classy doesn't like. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much. Oh wait, click like, please, before you go. We're at 374. Click like, everyone.
It's all good now. It's more like if they do it earlier, I think it helps get more people on. But
right.
Appreciate it.
But it's just for a point of pride. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for your super chats. Thank you for coming. What are you guys happening this week? You guys want to share anything planned that's exciting you want to tell the people?
Classy, why don't you go?
All right, I want to put the 90B Part 1 review up today. That's the meat and potatoes of it, but all the in-depth stuff will be coming over the next week. And then whatever comes next, if it's a C2 or the A80K or whatever, I'll get that.
All right.
Yeah. I have I'm going to do a full-on review of the 85-inch QN90B here. And then also next week, it will be my first video on the Be the Consumer channel. I'm starting a new channel. Be the Consumer. We were like, be the consumer, be the buyer. But Be the Consumer, and it's going to be on my Tesla Y Performance. So I'm going to have a full, like a new owner, kind of like for someone considering buying an electric car, which is not a bad time to do that with all the price of gas and all that right now. So I will
if you can find one, if you can find
one. I mean, they are harder to get, but you can put in you can put in that $250 on like Tesla, and if it's 6 months to a year, the only thing you lose is that $250 if you end up not buying it, but you get your name on the list.
I'm still on the list, and they pushed me to October now. Tomorrow I'll have a live stream with Robert Zone. We're going to do calibration comparisons between the A90J, G2, and C2. D-Nice, Dwayne, has calibrated it, spent all weekend doing it, so he's going to share with us his findings and impressions after calibration. How much better is the G2 than the A90J? This is not a full shootout. We're going to save that for the actual July shootout, but they want to give you guys at least something to decide or think about moving forward. All right.
And then,
thank you, everyone. Go ahead.
FOMO and D-Nice and I are trying to arrange a time to do a Dolby Vision stream. That may also happen tomorrow, depending on schedules.
I'll be doing live stream all day tomorrow.
Yeah. And I did want to say, too, that April 8th, 9th, it will be 1 year that I've been doing this. And I'm just shy of 10,000 subs. So if anyone is subbed,
everyone subscribe.
That'll be nice at 10,000.
You'll be there in a bit. It's almost there. I'm going to be at 100,000 in it's going to be about a month.
We can't stop you. There you go.
You can't stop any of us. Come on.
And just so you know, Classy, tomorrow I have to go to my daughter's dance, whatever. Yeah. But it's in the later I think I have to leave by 4 Pacific time. So I'm doing my live probably 12 to 1 Pacific time. And then right after that, 12 to 1.
Yeah, whatever works for you and D-Nice. So he's just said that he might be able to tomorrow. He would know later today if he could.
And again, we could push it off until another time. 10,000 sub party soon. There you go. All right. Good vibes, everyone. Have a great weekend. Be safe.
Thank you. See you guys.
Until next time. Pass remote.